This is Michael Popok for the new Legal AF YouTube channel. Free subscribe right now. Help us build this pro-democracy channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. We got a new lawsuit in Georgia. The devil wasn't the only thing that went down to Georgia. Now we've got 3 Trumpers on a 5-person election board who have met in secret, passed rules to change the rules of the game and the rules of the road before the November 5th election, all to favor Donald Trump, their cult leader. And the Democrats, at least 2 of them that are on the board and others in and around Fulton County, Georgia, in Atlanta, are filing and have filed a lawsuit to get the governor to do something about it. Back in July, I reported on Legal AF that the 3 Trumpers who took control of the board in May, who got a shout out from Donald Trump during a campaign stop, that's to show you what's going on there, and one of them at least, who's part of the election-denying group led by Cleta Mitchell for Donald Trump, has filed a lawsuit to try to ensure that more hurdles to early voting and voting in absentee and voting by mail-in are put up as a continued voter suppression. That board met in July, and they decided to do some things to help Donald Trump. First of all, they created a new standard that's inconsistent with the statute and their statutory, ministerial, clerical duties as vote counters and certifiers, because they don't want to certify the election. They don't want to count the votes and all the votes. They want to suppress the vote. They want to leave Donald Trump and his lawyers time to run into court again and try to delay things and overturn the will of the people and disenfranchise voters again. And they're just trying to buy more time in advance. I mean, I'll be doing a separate hot take on at least 5 major lawsuits that have been filed in battleground states already objecting to fraud in the election, and the election hasn't even started. We're not even done with early voting registration, let alone early voting in any state. But that hasn't stopped Maga from claiming that there is already a stolen election. Well, we haven't even had the election yet. Now, in this particular case, to try to help Donald Trump, they created a new standard. Talk about creating mischief. They said that each individual precinct and each individual county can use a reasonable inquiry. Any member of the election board in that county can use a reasonable inquiry of the election workers who are just working their ass off trying to get all the votes counted and trying to get the provisional ballots made into real ballots and properly certify and tally. No, a reasonable inquiry. Any one person can say, I want to see all the underlying ballots, all the underlying data, all the voter registration material for that particular precinct. I got all day. Well, actually, you don't. Under Georgia law, as in most states, the final certification, which is different than what gets announced on television, by the CNNs and MSNBCs and even Midas Touches of the world. That is a unofficial tally based on a hand count or tally at each precinct, and then it's added up and all put together. So you see John King and others on that whiteboard. That's not the certified results. And things can change, and there can be election contests, meaning the loser can file a contest in court and challenge, and there can be an automatic recount if the winning percentage is so small that it triggers an automatic hand recount, all different things to protect the integrity of the election. But what we're talking about here is the certified results have to come out in most states the Monday following the Tuesday of Election Day, like 6 days later. So this is going to allow anybody that happens to be working there on the board to make a reasonable inquiry and just throw a monkey wrench and pull the emergency brake on the train and stop everything, because they don't want to get to the Monday certification, right? So that was the first thing. And they met, apparently, according to the new filing in Fulton County Court, this new petition filed against the governor, Governor Kemp, to make him do something through what we call in the law a writ of mandamus, which is a highfalutin sounding thing to compel a government official who has that duty to do something, a mandamus, right? And so that meeting in July, the only people that attended that meeting was the 3 MAGA Trumpers. The other 2, it's a 5-member state election board. The other 2 didn't attend. It wasn't properly noticed. It wasn't properly agenda. There wasn't a proper agenda. It wasn't public notice wasn't properly. See, we care about these things. It's called the Sunshine Law because corruption, corruption. The best antiseptic for corruption is sunshine. And so states have things called sunshine law and open records law and public records law, which require that government be done in the open and not in the smoke-filled back rooms of Georgia or any other state. I have a fair amount of experience in government practice in my prior life, where I represented cities and municipalities who had election issues and had meetings that had to be properly noticed and a proper agenda package and a proper moment for public participation, what we used to call good and welfare, where people would get up at their local meetings and be able to speak. And all that has to be properly noticed. And if it's not properly noticed, or there's an emergency meeting that's not properly noticed, or not properly attended, or didn't have a quorum, enough people, or didn't have the appropriate people presiding, that entire meeting and all actions taken by that board are what we call ultra vires, irregular, illegal in the parlance, in the local parlance. And that's what the argument is here, that rule that they passed with just 3 people, missing the 2 Democrats, was not properly noticed. The public was not made aware appropriately. There wasn't the compliance with the appropriate sunshine law, government in the sunshine law, public notice. And so everything they did was ultra vires, illegal, irregular, not to be respected. And then since then, just this past Tuesday or so last week, this is another hair on fire moment that wasn't getting enough attention, except on Legal AF. That same 3-2 board, controlled by Maga, decided another thing. They decided to force a hand count in one day in every precinct throughout Georgia. Do you know how many precincts there are in Georgia? It's hundreds. It's hundreds of precincts within Georgia. And they want a hand count. The optical reader, the electronic balloting, the workers tallying is not enough. We got to pull everything out, pull everything together, and have other human beings hand counting, injecting human error and injecting fatigue and human error into this process. Are things going to be better off at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning when tired election workers who have been working already 24 and 48-hour shifts are now looking at bleary-eyed rows of digits in order to tally them? Is that going to make things better? Now, there is, for those that wonder, there is a process if there's fraud or closeness in the election and ballots have to be recounted. It's, as I said at the top of the hot take, it's called a contest. And it's brought by the losing party, and they pay for it. And there may be in your state, most states have it, an automatic hand recount requirement if the winning margin is so slim, usually 1,000 or a percentage, 1%, half of 1%, it triggers an automatic recount. And that's how we audit everything. And that's how we ensure voter integrity. And it works. But you don't have to, without any suggestion of a fraud or an audit problem or an election certification problem or integrity problem. You don't go, let's just hand count everything, the entire state. Let's hand count millions of ballots and let's do it in 48 hours. I mean, this is the problem. And when MAGA gets in control, under the banner of voter integrity, it's really masquerading as voter suppression. I've said this before on Legal AF and right here on this YouTube channel, new for Legal AF. When you hear MAGA and Republicans and officials in red states, especially newly elected ones that are MAGA, say out loud that all they care about is voter integrity, just use Google Translate or Popok Translate and convert that into they want to suppress the vote. They want to deny the Democrats' ability to vote for the person of their choice or anybody's ability to vote for the person of their choice. So now this new lawsuit just got filed in Fulton County Superior Court. That's sort of the entry-level trial court level. And it has been brought by 3 petitioners, or what we call plaintiffs. One of them is a senator for the state, a state senator in Georgia. One of them is the former chair of the Fulton County Board of Elections. And the other one is somebody who's running for the assembly or sort of the state house of Georgia. And they are forcing, by way of this petition, if this goes through and it's ordered, Governor Kemp to do something. especially off the ethics charges that they filed against the three Trumpers for violating state sunshine law and how they conducted the meeting back in July, how they irregularly passed that rule, how they just passed the rule last week about hand counting. Stop them, Governor. And there is a statute in Georgia that allows, once an ethics charge has been filed for the governor or his designee, he must or she must conduct a hearing. And that's what they want. They want the hearing. They want the hearing, and they want the public to see it in court, and they want the pressure to go on the three Trumpers, and they want to reverse the results and get rid of these laws or decisions by the state election board is a better way to put it, that are completely opposite from what the attorney general from the state told them was appropriate in his written legal opinion, and what the governor's office has told them is appropriate under his legal opinion. But that board, under the quirks of Georgia, that 3-2 dominated Maga board is the last word unless a court or governor here overturns it. And that's what this suit is trying to accomplish. So we are back. The devil is back in Fulton County, Georgia again. Isn't that, I guess, appropriate? It's going to be the battleground could be the battleground for our election of Kamala Harris, or I guess Donald Trump, whoever's going to win in November, to the extent that Georgia becomes the battleground that I think it will be. We got to follow these lawsuits. This won't be the last lawsuit about the state election board, now dominated by MAGA, and their rules to obviously not tilting the playing field. Sounds like a child's game. This is like the old Batman, where all the criminals were in rooms with floors that slid at a 70-degree angle. This playing field is this, the referee, the umpire, is wearing a uniform. And I mean a uniform for one side or the other. Too many men on the field. And they're putting their big fat thumb on the scale in favor of Donald Trump in advance of the election. It's wrong. It's been called out. There'll be other lawsuits about this. But we're running out of time. It's under 40 days before the election. So we got to keep following it right here. You made your way here. I really appreciate it. This is the new Legal AF YouTube channel. Free subscribe and help us get to 200,000 before the end of October. We're already more than halfway there, and we're only 11 days old. We're in collaboration with our brothers over on the Midas Touch Network. 4 years ago, I co-founded Legal AF with Ben Meisalas, and here we are with our own channel in collaboration with and running alongside the Midas Touch Network, where we sit at the intersection of law and politics without blowing smoke or sunshine. And I'll be curating this channel. You'll be hearing from me regularly, daily. You'll also be hearing from other contributors from around the Midas Touch universe, sort of like the Marvel universe, the Midas Touch universe, and from outside the universe, we're going to have some crossovers. It's sort of like when Superman shows up in a Batman movie. We'll bring over some other superheroes, different people wearing capes and not wearing capes that you'll want to hear from right here on Legal AF MTN. That's what you tell people. Go on YouTube and look for us at Legal AF MTN. That's for Midas Touch Network. You heard of MSNBC? When Microsoft and NBC got together, this is Legal AF and MTN. So until my next hot take and my next podcast for Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network and my exclusive content that I'm curating right here on the Legal AF MTN channel, this is Michael Popok, and once again, I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.